Hey guys, and welcome to part 17 of my playthrough of Bloodborne at 60 FPS. So in this episode I will finish exploring the Nightmare of Mensis, and I will also cover the boss fight for Ebrietas, Daughter of the Cosmos, as well as finish the questlines for Analise and Alfred. So now I progress up to the middle level of the Mensis area, and here we will encounter some enemies such as the crow-headed dogs and dog-headed crows, again, as well as some more shadows, as you will have seen from the Shadow of Yharnam fight. There will also be some wild boars in this area, and unlike the previous ones, these ones have multiple eyes all over their head, so they do look somewhat weird. The wild boars are quite dangerous because they have a very nasty charged attack, and at this stage in the game that will be a one-shot. On the plus side, however, you can farm the boars for quite a lot of blood echoes, and these can be increased even further if you have the moon runes equipped, as well as the air runes, which boosts the amount of blood echoes you can get from performing visceral attacks. The only thing here is the visceral attack looks a little bit on the dodgy side. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director, was going for here. One of the best things about this area, however, is the amount of bloodstone chunks that we can pick up here. So if you want to upgrade one or two of your weapons up to +9, this is definitely one of the best places in the main game to do it. We will also see a rather distressed looking lady who turns out to be the Fumarian Queen, and we can see she has a bloody scar coming from her stomach. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the lore behind all this regarding the Fumarian Queen, but it is a typically rather gruesome detail that we come to expect from Bloodborne. This part of the Mensis area can also lead down to where we can get our one and only blood rock that we find in the main game. Now the pathway down to it is somewhat tricky because you need to take the cage lift here and roll off just at the right point, but this can be very easy to mess up, and quite a few times in the past I've mistimed the roll and fell to my death. But thankfully, having played the game loads of times up to this point, I've gotten used to where you need to actually roll off, and I managed to make the roll here. However, in this area we will encounter one of the most dangerous enemies in the game, as well as one of the most annoying, which is the Winter Lanterns. The Winter Lanterns, not only do they look very creepy, they can also inflict deadly levels of frenzy on the hunter, so you need to be very careful here. It's also a good idea to have the Deep Sea rune equipped here, because that rune will provide you with extra resistance to frenzy. A good way through this area, however, if you want to try and avoid the Winter Lanterns, is again use a blue elixir, because the blue elixir will disguise you from the Winter Lanterns quite well. We will also find a lever in this room which, if we go up to it, it will trigger a cutscene where we will see the hunter drop the brain of Mensis into a pit. So by doing this will also eliminate the threat of frenzy that was in the area, or in the lower areas of Mensis. So here we now run into the area where we can get some extra Great One's Wisdom, which gives you 2 insight instead of 1, so we get a few of these in here, which is pretty good.
Pretty good.
We also get what is probably the only decent blood-tinged gem you can get in the entire main game. Because the main game itself isn't exactly littered with great blood gems. And that's one of the most annoying things about the game, is that most of the good blood gems are actually embedded deeply into the Chalice dungeons. And of course you can access these dungeons by using the glyph codes, and you can access them via different websites such as Extra Life or Wikidot. These sites will give you these codes that you can use. And this is where we finally get our blood rock, and with this we can now finally upgrade one of our weapons to +10. So now that I've got this, I head back to the Hunter's Dream and I max out one of my weapons, which is the Blade of Mercy. You can of course access another blood rock in the DLC, but that's much later on in the DLC. So yeah, I think in retrospect, I think they should have been a bit more generous with the amount of blood rocks that you could get in the game, because one in the main game and one in the DLC is frankly just a bit too stingy. Hopefully if they ever do a remake or remaster they might provide some extra blood rocks, but no, we'll see. So here we now have the next boss, which is Ebrietas. Now she can be quite a difficult boss, because she does have quite a few attacks. And in her first phase, she tends to perform a series of swipes with her tentacles. She can also perform a sort of head slam attack. As for the strategy, I tend to find it's easier to stand to the side of Ebrietas rather than head on, because head on is far more dangerous. Because head on, you're far more vulnerable to her attacks. In the second phase, Ebrietas will perform some new attacks. These attacks include her spitting out some frenzy, but her most dangerous attack is the laser that she fires out, because if you get caught in that laser, it's pretty much game over, because yeah, she can really demolish your HP. So the best thing to do if she does do the laser, what you'll notice is you will hear a kind of build-up noise, and when you hear that, basically just run, because if you stand still next to her and you're still attacking her, then you've absolutely no chance of surviving that laser. The main weakness, ironically, of Ebrietas is of course her head, so even though I did say it's best to kind of stick to her side, you can still do some massive damage to her by striking her head. She's also quite weak to bolt and thrust attacks. And that's it for Ebrietas. Yeah, so she can be quite a tricky boss to fight. And once she's dead, we can actually get another chalice, which is, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to say the Great Eyes Chalice. So yeah, you get that chalice. I think that's one of the kind of deeper dungeon chalices, so. And here we return to Iosfeka's clinic, and so if we go upstairs, we will find the imposter Iosfeka. However, by this time we find her, she is lying face down on a table, and we hear her rambling away here.
God, I'm nauseous. Have you felt this? It's progressing. I can see things. I knew it. I'm different. I'm no beast. Oh, God, it feels awful. But it proves that I'm chosen. Don't you see how they writhe inside my head? It's rather rapturous.
So here you have the option to either kill her or leave her alone, so here I decide to actually kill her because she will drop a third umbilical cord, which we will need to fight the last main boss of the game. So here I return to give Alfred the unopened Cainhurst summons. So he seems quite grateful when you actually give him these summons, but it doesn't quite prepare you for what he actually has in mind next, which we will soon see.
Aha! Is that the sigil of Cainhurst? I've heard tell of Cainhurst nobles and their amusingly pompous invitations. Wonderful. I thank you profusely. I will depart immediately, but first, a token of my gratitude. Ah, I feel my master's hand at work. Praise the good blood, and let us cleanse these tarnished streets. Look, I've done it. I've done it. Smashed, pounded, and grounded this rotten siren into fleshy pink pulp.
And on returning to Cainhurst Castle, we will now see a different side to Alfred. He now appears as some sort of bloodthirsty, crazed hunter. Yeah, so it is one of the more shocking and drastic changes in personality, so it does come as quite a bit of a shock when you first see him like this.
Inside on the outside for all the world to see.
You're crazy. Haven't you ever heard of the healing power of laughter?
You, is it? Look at this. Thanks to you, I've done it. Well, isn't it wonderful? Now Master can be canonized as a true martyr. I've done it. I have.
And from this point, you can either leave him alone, or you can actually attack him and take him on in combat, which is what I actually do here. Now this can be quite a tough fight, because he has got one of the weapons you can get in the game, which is the Ligarius wheel. The wheel is essentially a strength weapon, but you can hit very hard with this weapon and can do a lot of damage. In fact, this was a pretty hard fight, because he very nearly took me down here. I was lucky to actually get this done in one go. So when he finally dies, he will drop the Radiance rune, which frankly I think is one of the worst runes in the entire game. In fact, it's hardly worth actually even me picking it up here. It's supposed to actually boost your HP recovery, but frankly it's just a lot of crap, this rune. It's really not worth using. So after this, we can take Annalise's queenly flesh, which we will need in order to actually revive her. This involves taking her flesh to the Altar of Despair, and we go up to the altar here, and we can place her flesh down on the altar, which will now bring Annalise back to life.
Closest kin, bearer of our blood, I welcome thee. What is thy wish? We await for the...
So that's all for now, guys. So in the next episode, I will start the Old Hunters DLC. So that's it for now, and I'll see you soon.